Today is the third installment of my Phone Diaries series, and we're going to be discussing what it's like to have a dumb phone a year later. I'm really excited to share my thoughts on this wrap up of what it's like to move from a smartphone to a dumb phone. Now, if you're just tuning in, there are a couple videos that you should see before you actually watch this one. This one talks all about my transition to a flip phone, and the second one that is all about the light phone too. Hello, I'm Paige. I'm an artist, an illustrator, and a painter, and also a dumb phone user. If you're here, you're probably interested in learning a little bit more about the switch from a smartphone to a dumb phone. Maybe you want to regain your attention span, or you just want a little more peace of mind. All right, I've included timestamps down below if you want to jump ahead at any point. Not that you would, right? Let's talk about why I switched to a Zen phone, or what might be called a feature phone or a dumb phone. One of the main reasons that I switched was because I was distracted all of the time. Like, could not focus, really wondering if I had ADHD, and I wanted to change it. And I felt like the phone was the biggest culprit. Two, I couldn't remember things. Now, this could be a middle-aged thing, but I really felt like because I was distracted all the time and interrupted all the time, I just couldn't remember things. And honestly, it kind of scared me a little bit, but I knew part of it was attributed to this phone situation. And lastly, I was on the phone all the time. I'd get on it for one thing, and then 30 minutes later, I was still on the phone and couldn't remember what I actually got on the phone for. I truly just wanted to be more present in my daily life. Now, admittedly, I still have access to devices. I have iPads, I have my old iPhone that I use occasionally to listen to Audible, sometimes podcasts. In a pinch, I'll use it for social media or to use the camera. So I'm not entirely gadget free. I work from home, so I have the internet at my disposal as well as a computer. To say making the switch to a dumb phone is easy would be a lie. I think it all depends on your determination and how much you want it. That will determine your success in switching. Due to my lifestyle and the fact that I work from home and that I have only traveled through the state and not internationally, it has really worked for me, and I really appreciate having a Zen phone. Some people have said, well, social media is the problem. It's not your phone, it's social media. And maybe they're right. For me, as a small business owner, I rely on social media to have social proof and to stay relevant with the people who are interested in my artwork. It's a double-edged sword, and definitely it is a distraction in its own right. And without social media, we wouldn't have YouTube, and you wouldn't be here watching me. So there are lots of good things that come with social media as well as things that are less desirable. But still, the phone has become a constant interruption, so it's not entirely social media. And really, actually, since I did my first video, dumb phones have become a controversial topic in some circles, at least a hot topic, and very trendy, I think, pertaining to kids ditching their modern day cell phones. It's like 1991 for them all over again, and these kids are New York City high school students who I believe they're called the Luddite Club. There's a link down below where you can see the article for yourself, where they're ditching cell phones. They're getting together a certain time, a certain day of the week, where they can hang out like kids do, hopefully, or they used to when I was in high school, and they draw, they read, they study. It's really kind of actually wholesome, but also very humorous because their parents are freaking out because they can't track their kids by their phones. So their helicopter parenting skills are left dangling, so to speak. And it's very interesting to me, the parents who would be my age, who grew up in the 90s, now are freaking out because their kids aren't accessible 24/7. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but come on, yo. I'm kind of impressed that kids are taking the initiative to just be more present themselves. Let's talk about some benefits that I've experienced since I switched to the Zen phone. The first one is boundaries. I really got better last year at setting some boundaries for myself. In the beginning of 2021, I read Cal Newport's Deep Work, and I also read Atomic Habits last year. Both those books are linked down below. And they both had a huge impact on my year. I really learned how to set boundaries with my phone. This meant leaving it at home occasionally, turning it off, or when people called and then turned around and demanded that I get back to them via text, I was able to put the phone away and keep working. It really allowed me to recapture my time and learn to say no. I constantly hear my mother's voice in my head saying, "What's reasonable?" Also, she used to say, "The phone is a tool for your use." So I'm always thinking about, is it reasonable to be interrupted 20 times because somebody needs to text you, to call you? That's kind of how I view the phone. It's constantly interrupting you. So I was able to break some of those habits and build some new ones, just where I would say, "I'll call you back. How about this time or this time?" So the dumb phone helped me set some boundaries. My attention. Our attention is ever a work in progress. This move allowed me to be more present, and it also allowed me to see where I was actually spending my time. Number 3, less anxiety. For sure. I'm not constantly checking email or social media. Sometimes I leave my phone behind. Sometimes I leave it downstairs in my office. And yes, you can turn off your notifications on a smartphone, and that will definitely help you with your anxiety, I promise. The one thing I really like about these Zen phones is they charge really quick. I can plug in my light phone too, and it charges pretty darn fast. So even if they don't have big batteries behind them, it doesn't take long to charge them. I'm not a commodity. This means when I'm carrying my Zen phone, I'm not being tracked. It's really just a phone, and it's not some sort of advertising thing that is tracking my every move online to sell me more stuff. And along those lines, I'm shopping less. I'm not seeing random ads that kind of catch my eye and that are spur of the moment purchases. So that's a money saving bonus. News. So if I want to see what's on the news, I can look and go to news websites of my choosing. I'm not being barraged by negativity or ridiculousness 24/7. Because let's face it, what somebody's wearing truly is not news. And one surprising benefit is new friends. I've actually made some friends thanks to my Zen phone lifestyle. More importantly, my friend Terry Grier, I have a link for him down below. He and I started talking. He interviewed me on his YouTube channel, and we really have become friends over our Zen phone lifestyle. We're also both sober, and so it's kind of cool to know that still in this day and age, you can meet quality people through the internet. Check out his channel below. And you can look at this as a benefit. I'm no longer on autopilot. And basically what that means is when you have a Zen phone or a feature phone, you have to plan because you don't have maps and you don't have conveniences that you otherwise would have. So when you're going somewhere, you might have to print out Google Maps or just take a look at it and make a plan accordingly. I also think this way of planning makes you a little more present, right? It's like riding a bike through a neighborhood. You're looking up, you're seeing things. You see them differently than if you ride in a car. Relationships. I do think this has helped me be somewhat more present in my relationship. Of course, my spouse doesn't have a Zen phone, but when I go out to eat, I'm not on my phone all the time. I'm present. I'm there for the meal. I'm there for the interaction with my spouse, and that has to be worth something. Okay, so last year was full of growth, full of change. I developed some positive habits last year because I really wanted to change my life. The phone was just part of it. So I'm going to share some habits that I changed last year because I was spending less time on my phone and more time making things happen. So I started reading, I think at the end of 2021, but last year I dedicated 30 minutes or more to daily reading. It is the first thing that I do in the morning is do a little bit of reading, and it makes me really happy. I actually do it at night too. But if I can't do it at night, I'm definitely doing it in the morning. This year I incorporated 10 minutes of meditation after I read, because I wanted to have a moment of quiet before my days got crazy. Also for Christmas this year, I got a rebounder, which is basically a mini trampoline, and I've incorporated movement into my mornings after I get done meditating. Writing. So last year I started writing people physical letters. I love it. I just love the act of writing and truly feeling like I'm connecting with them. People can choose to respond or not, but I've had lots of people respond to me, and it just makes me feel more of a connection with clients that I might send postcards to, or friends that I send thank you notes or letters to. No one is ever going to be unhappy because they got a piece of mail that asks how they're doing. Time blocking. So this is something that I've tried to explore in the last year or so. This year I'm making a more concerted effort to time block and to really just see where I spend my time and what I'm doing. And I find also when I am time blocking or when I'm working, I'm really in it. So I'm not worried about interruptions. I'm able to tune other things out and really spend some good quality time working or painting. So again, if you're interested in Atomic Habits or Cal Newport's Deep Work, those links are down below. So I started using analog tools, which honestly, some of these tools I already used, like a calendar. My flip phone was so slow and it was so hard to get phone numbers and things, I started writing them down in a book. Sometimes when you make the switch to a Zen phone or a feature phone, they aren't as speedy as your smartphone. So you develop other systems to help you out, and I'm going to share some of mine with you. I got a password keeper, which basically is just a book for passwords for the internet. It's fast, reliable, and easy to use, and it makes me more efficient online. I got a card catalog and an address book. Yes, it is like 1995 up in here. The address book is really handy for family members or a quick reference. The card catalog is really useful for business colleagues or information that I want to keep handy for people that I've been working with, or maybe I can know the last time I talked to them. This was a great tip that I learned from Terry Grier and my friend Megan Wimberly, and I've been using this system a lot this year, and I really like it. A date planner and a bullet journal. I use a paper date planner, and this is because I've always used a paper date planner. It helps me remember things because I write them down. And so this is kind of a long term, it's probably like an 18-month planner. And then now I've incorporated use of a bullet journal again in my life, and it kind of keeps track of tasks and to-dos and notes about certain things or meetings. So I have one go-to place that I can look at. All that information is there. I've started keeping a Zettelkasten. Yeah, right. What is that? Well, blame my friend Terry because he did an interview with Scheper. I have a link below for his YouTube channel. This is basically an analog card cataloging system where you can keep different information in it, whatever you want to keep in it. I implore you to go over to his channel and check it out. Really, I use this as a tool for memory, for keeping facts. I don't think I'm ever going to write a book, but it would be the perfect tool for writing a book. Really, I use it for fact recall and, potential blog posts and information like that. And because I'm doing so much reading, anything that I find truly noteworthy actually goes into my Zettelkasten so I can use it later. A tickler file. Another blame Terry moment because I actually started keeping a tickler file, or what's called the 43 folder system. I use 3x5 cards because I have so many monthly tasks that are recurring that I need to keep track of and not forget. And it just helps me stay on track when I have to send out emails and do that kind of thing. This might be what you're here for because you want to know what are some of the struggles, what are some of the inconveniences or issues that I might have had in this switch over this year. Banking. I miss having banking at my fingertips. Yes, you can check it on your computer. That's not a problem. But being able to deposit checks and things on the fly, that's pretty handy. Parking. I've forgotten how easy it is to use a phone for certain parking lots. So this means that you actually have to plan ahead and know which parking lots have QR codes that you have to use your phone with. That's not handy. It's definitely figure outable, but it's not always convenient. Menus. Terry and I have both talked about this, but there are restaurants now that have menus that are only on a QR code that you access with your phone. I haven't had any problems really asking a restaurant for their menu, or my spouse, he's got a real smartphone, so we can use his phone. But I think in bigger cities, it might be more of an issue. That is one thing you may run into. I don't know that it's a deal breaker, but exhibits. There are certain exhibits that might only have a QR code, or one of the things that I know that's going to be a challenge for me this year, I'm headed to Disney World, and I know I'm going to need a smartphone for when I'm in the park by myself. Because I'm pretty sure in order to get rides and things like that, the phone is the way to go. GPS. Let's be really honest now. The Light Phone 2 has GPS, and it's kind of terrible. I know they're always working behind the scenes to improve things, but GPS is one of the things that really is kind of the pits. I've gotten lost and spent a lot of extra time trying to find places. It was kind of an adventure, but not super handy, and if you're in a pinch, you're not going to be happy about it. So I got an iPad when I'm traveling because it allows me to use Google Directions. Now sometimes the iPad doesn't want to work so great because it doesn't have a strong signal. That's another problem, but most of the time it has worked just fine for me. You can also use the GPS unit in your car, or you can buy a separate GPS unit. That may be preferable if you're in a big city or a place where you really need to have good GPS. Audible. I love Audible, and obviously I like to read, but I also like to listen to books when I'm painting, and I cannot use Audible on my non-smartphone. I'd love to have it as an option, so sometimes I have to resort to using my old iPhone to listening to Audible. Bluetooth, at least when it pertains to the Light Phone 2, sometimes is a little sketchy, and it's not very convenient. Most of the time it works. They're always working to improve that, and I think every time they do, it gets better, but sometimes Bluetooth is an issue. Images. So because I have a Light Phone 2, I don't actually get imagery. It goes directly to my email, which honestly, I really love that because I have access to it and I can recall it, and I know where it's going to be if I have to look for it later. But when you're in a pinch or somebody needs to have you fix something, design something, if somebody needs you to look at an image right away, I don't have that luxury, especially if I'm away from my computer. So it's good and it's bad. It's one thing that I do miss. So I mentioned tracking earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. Because my phone is very small and nondescript, I can set it down somewhere and easily lose it. This requires me to have my husband call me so the phone will ring so I can find it. Are there ways around this? Yes, there are. That is one thing I do miss about my iPhone. And I could easily put a little tracker on my phone. I just haven't wanted to bulk it up. Another burning question you might have is, did I save money? The answer is yes and no. It's not quite so black and white. Yes, I'm saving money monthly because I just use the phone to talk on the phone. In the last year, I've bought a few things to help aid me with this move to the Zenfone. One was that I bought an iPad. So I had to use a point of sale system, and I also needed GPS, and that is why I bought the iPad, because it has a small data plan that I could use that's pretty inexpensive that could allow me to do markets. I also bought a Canon G7X Mark III camera. So I bought this camera, it goes into your pocket, it's pretty cool. As an artist, it's like a requirement to be able to carry a camera because I'm taking reference shots all the time. I do sometimes miss having a cell phone that has a camera on it, but I'm also more present and I am saving myself thousands of photographs and data to store them. Last year I bought a paper Kindle White. It feeds my reading habit. I really had been resistant, but once I saw that it had an e-ink display and it doesn't light your brain up the same way that a cell phone does, I was sold. And I've used it a ton. Obviously, I'm reading daily, so it's been a really good and surprising investment. Now, this one, I don't know if it really should be on the list, but I bought a Zoom H1N recorder. It allows me to record my thoughts, actually, for videos that I can then have transcribed. And it also allows me to record sounds for my videos because that's something I've been really interested in for a long time, and I look forward to being able to get out hiking and being able to record sounds and use them in my videos. Will I go back to a smartphone? The truth is, never say never. I think there are use cases for the smartphone where it's really needed. I have an additional dormant business line on my phone account. I could see adding a smartphone to use for that secondary line, especially when I travel or if I were to travel overseas again. I think it's kind of necessary to have. And if I were traveling alone, I think it would be imperative to at least have that while I was traveling. Also, with my plan of heading to Florida at the end of the year, I am a little concerned that I'm going to need to have a smartphone just to maneuver Disney World and to get around because I will be by myself part of the time. Yes, I could borrow my husband's Android device, but I don't even know how to honestly operate it. So regardless, there's going to be some friction there. These are some things that I've thought about may have me getting a smartphone, but I know that I'm going to have real distinct rules for myself on how I use it and when I'm using it, because let's face it, they're addictive, and my iPhone is just as addictive today as it was the day that I stopped using it for a phone. I really hope that you've gotten something out of this series of videos that I've done. If you haven't seen the other two, please feel free to check them out. I have a playlist where you can check them out. And if you are an illustrator and you're looking for some different tools that you can use to do your work, I have some great videos over here for you. Now, if you like this video, please subscribe. If you want to share your story about making the switch, please put it down in the comments below. Until next time, stay creative, my friend.